It was midnight on my birthday, and I stared blankly at the gifts Julian had sent. A pair of lace panties with filth, and a blood-stained hotel bedsheet. I flipped the table over on the spot, but when I looked up, I saw Julian smiling helplessly as he gazed at the gifts. Just a little tantrum, don't worry about it, our wedding is in 3 days. Rest assured, there won't be any more problems like this after we're married. I suddenly calmed down as I looked at the message I had just received on my phone. I watched a nonchalant Julian nod and agree with a smile. For our wedding in 3 days, I would give him a grand surprise. I hoped he could remain as calm and composed as he was today. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and tell us where you're listening from in the comments. Julian seemed surprised by my attitude, but he merely raised an eyebrow. Then, walking over the filth scattered on the floor, he smiled as he walked out, dialing a phone number. You're not being a good girl at all. Don't do it again next time. I kicked away the cream-stained rose petals on the floor, then meticulously spread out the hotel bedsheet and panties, taking several close-up photos of the bloodstains and the filth on the underwear. I then posted a 9-grid collage on my social media post. Thank you, my fiancé, for my birthday gift. I love it very much. I selected the media and business groups, and pressed send. 30 seconds later, Julian, who had just been flirting playfully and smoking outside the French windows, suddenly turned pale. In the blink of an eye, Julian stormed back to me, roaring with rage. He snatched my phone and smashed it on the floor. Scarlett, what do you mean by this? Exactly what it means. My fiancé's little bird on the side went to great lengths to prepare my birthday gift. It would be rude not to acknowledge her hard work. Julian sighed helplessly. Scarlett, she's young and it's her first time. Why do you have to be so particular? Mrs. Julian. The position of Mrs. Julian is mine. Am I supposed to be understanding and obedient, like wives of old, allowing my husband to have 1, 2, 3, or 100 mistresses? Julian, those days are long gone. I thought I could control my emotions well. After all, the text message I had just received gave me plenty of confidence. But my love and tolerance for Julian had long been exhausted through countless instances like this. Disgust flashed in Julian's eyes. Scarlett, don't go too far. If it weren't for me, you would have been ruined by some madman in your rural town by now. He looked down at me from above, as if reminding me that he had brought me this far, and I should be grateful. A metallic taste filled my mouth, and I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. Julian, you did financially support me, but 3 years ago, I gave you a second life with that liver transplant surgery. I don't owe you anything. Julian froze, his chest heaving. After a few minutes, he regained his composure. He stepped closer and gently smoothed back the stray hairs from my forehead. Scarlett, I didn't mean anything by it. The corporation is currently seeking funding, and you know what reputation means to me. I promise you, nothing like this will ever happen again after we're married. Tomorrow is the corporation's press conference. Regarding what you posted on your social media post today, I hope you can go and help me clarify things. The scent of his cologne, which used to make my heart flutter, made me feel nauseous for the first time today. I evaded Julian's outstretched hands, stepped back, picked up my bag, and turned to leave. Julian let out a satisfied sigh as he watched my retreating back. He knew me well, such things had happened too many times over the years. My silence always meant he had won again. But this time, he was wrong. Sir, what should we do with these bed sheets and panties? Should we just throw them away? No, fold them neatly and put them in the trunk. Julian was a germaphobe. He had even smilingly refused when I wanted to put my freshly dry-cleaned high heels in his trunk. I understood. A cheating cat always loves those disgusting, dirty things. Before the banquet began, as I got out of the car, I spotted Julian waiting at the parking lot entrance from a distance. He strode forward and grabbed my wrist. Scarlett, don't mess things up today. This isn't just an opportunity for the family, it's a turning point in my life. Julian had achieved some success within the family in recent years. Uncle, the current head of the family, had been considering relinquishing power recently. 3 years ago, the part of my liver that was removed saved 2 lives. One was Julian, and the other was his uncle. Julian, who had been so adamant yesterday, made a complete U-turn today. Besides hoping I would clarify that disastrous social media post, he also wanted me to put in a good word for him with his uncle. I understood perfectly, and I smiled as I met Julian's insincere pleading gaze. Don't worry, I know my limits. Julian breathed a sigh of relief and tried to pull me into his embrace. Scarlett, I knew you were the most sensible. After this is settled, I'll transfer 30 million to your account as your wedding settlement. I stepped back, avoiding his hands. I locked the car, picked up my bag, and turned to leave, waving at Julian, who stood frozen in place. Keep your money. I had no interest in his disgusting, dirty money. I had 1,000 ways to get money from the family. It wasn't his place to pay respect to me. As soon as I reached the entrance of the auditorium, reporters swarmed me. Mrs. Julian, we heard that social media post was fabricated by you to win favor. Can you give everyone an explanation? Mrs. Julian, as the future daughter-in-law of the family, don't you think it's a bit unscrupulous to use such methods to gain Julian's affection? Mrs. Julian, can you tell us where UFO? UND that bedsheet? It looks quite authentic. Julian was always meticulous in his dealings. It seemed he had already arranged things with these reporters, just waiting for me to go on stage and provide a cover-up for him. I replied with a faint smile. Get your cameras ready, you'll have all your answers shortly. As I turned, I saw Marcus entering, surrounded by a crowd. It seemed today was indeed a turning point in Julian's life. As attended to Marcus's needs, I slowly walked onto the stage. Just before I went up, my phone rang. It was a message from Julian. Scarlett, thank you. I love you. I quickly replied. Julian, you're thanking me too soon. After sending the message, the large screen on the stage suddenly lit up. The next second, Julian and the mistress's intimate sounds echoed through the auditorium's surround sound system. I turned the volume up to maximum. Julian's heavy breathing, combined with the excellent sound effects, resonated in my ears. Lily, my darling, I love you so much. Amidst everyone's shocked gazes, my nails dug into my palm. My heart was ripped apart as I looked at the I love you Julian had just sent me on my phone. How many women had this man said those words to? How could his love be so fleeting, so worthless? The flashing lights from below the stage stung my eyes. That very night, Julian became the center of a capital city scandal. When pushed the door open, soaked by the pouring rain, I had just finished tidying up and was sitting at the dining table, eating dinner. It had been many years since I'd seen Julian so utterly devastated. The last time was 3 years ago, the day he was diagnosed with late-stage liver cancer. His eyes vacant, he sat before me, muttering repeatedly, Scarlett, I haven't lived enough. I want to control the corporation, I want to leave my name permanently in capital city's business world, but I'm out of time. He wanted so many things, but never me. Yet, back then, I loved him. So, I comforted him through my tears, lulling him to sleep. That same night, I went to the hospital for matching. Perhaps fate had foreseen this day, wanting me to repay the kindness of his financial support early. And, of course, the match was successful. I still remember the doctor's words of caution that day, young lady, your body has been weak since childhood. After this surgery, you'll be dependent on medication for the rest of your life. Can you endure the pain every other day? I didn't hesitate for half a second. At that time, I valued Julian more than my own life. What was a little pain? Scarlett, you've gone too far. Julian burst in like a wild beast, and immediately flipped the dining table over. The scalding chicken soup from the heavy pot slid down my thigh, burning half of my body. The shattered porcelain pieces cut my feet, and blood mixed with the chicken soup flowed all over the floor. Julian acted as if he didn't see it, slamming his fist onto the table in front of me. Scarlett, you won't be satisfied until you've ruined me, will you? I grabbed the knife from the table and plunged it fiercely into Julian's palm. I had given him his life. What was ruining one of his hands? Blood spurted into my eyes, mixing with tears as they streamed down my face. Yes. I'm not only going to ruin you, but also those women you're with. If I'm not going to be happy, then none of you bastards will be either. Julian glared at me, his bloodshot eyes fixed on mine. Scarlett, what else have you done? No sooner had he spoken than Julian's personal secretary rushed in. Seeing me, he immediately stopped, an unspoken message in his eyes. Julian turned, screaming like a madman, what happened? Speak. Julian, the home addresses and parent information of all those women have been publicly released online. 143 of them. Gathering all that information certainly took a lot of effort. There were daughters of professors, wives of subordinates, and even mistresses and affairs of some influent EO figures in the circle. He really played the field. Julian lunged forward, his injured hand gripping my throat. Scarlett, what do you want me to do? Aren't you afraid I'll kill you? He had no time to kill me. In the moment he was strangling me, Julian's phone was already ringing off the hook. He cursed and raged, spending $300 million to hire the best public relations team in capital city. But it was useless. I had already said it before, getting things from the family was effortless. just as destroying Julian was, like crushing an ant. Sure enough, half an hour later, Julian, who had been raging like a madman, dropped to his knees before me with a thud. "Scarlett, please give me a break. Tell me what you want, and I'll do it." I observed Julian, his face pale with despair. "Nothing. I'm done playing. We'll proceed as planned tomorrow, the wedding." Julian froze in place. I had already walked to the courtyard and started the car. From the room, I heard Julian's tearful wails. "Scarlett, thank you, I love you." Again? How disgusting. I spat at the rose bushes he had planted for me in the courtyard, and slammed the accelerator, speeding out of the gate. Give you a break? Dream on. If you ruin me, I'll ruin you completely. I'm going to kill you. At 3 in the morning, I received a message from Julian. "Scarlett, I've already set up the wedding venue. Are you satisfied?" In the video Julian sent, a deep crimson carpet stretched hundreds of meters through the auditorium. Cherry blossom petals were scattered all over the carpet. Gold-edged wind chimes hung on either side of the vermilion entrance. As the tranquil early morning breeze swept through, the lingering notes of the chimes unfurled like silk. If I had seen such a scene 3 days ago, my eyes would have welled up with tears. It seemed ridiculous now. All this vulgarity Julian used to disdain and scoff at, he was now willing to do for me. But at this moment, I no longer cared. I casually replied satisfied and then turned off my phone. Julian had initially been quite apprehensive. But upon seeing the 2 words satisfied, his usual smugness and confidence returned considerably. He secretly mused to himself, perhaps he had gone too far in the past few days. That girl from a rural background couldn't possibly be indifferent to his status and position. Indeed, with just a flick of his fingers, he had earned her forgiveness. After today, they would be inextricably linked by shared interests. Then, having her clarify all the messy things that had happened recently would be easy. Thinking this, the gloom in Julian's heart completely dissipated. When's personal secretary came to the house to urge me for the 3rd time, I finally finished my makeup, put on my dress, and left. Reporters, a thick crowd of them, completely blocked the auditorium doors. All the cars symbolizing status and position were present in the parking lot, not a single one missing. I smiled lightly as I got out of the car and entered through the main entrance. In the center of the auditorium, Julian, wearing the tuxedo I had personally chosen for him, was greeting guests. The groom boutonniere on his chest was a glaring red. He was grinning ear to ear, looking like a completely different person from the Julian who had knelt before me, his face pale with despair, yesterday. Amidst the clinking of glasses, Julian saw me enter through the main door. The moment he saw me, Julian's smile vanished. He strode towards me, grabbed my wrist. His voice trembled slightly with agitation. "Scarlett, where's your wedding dress? What does this corsage on your chest mean?" I gently pushed away Julian's icy hand, linked arms with the man beside me, and smiled as I looked at him. "No pulling and tugging, Julian. You should call me Aunt." Julian froze. He stared at my serene smile, rigid as a statue. The emotions in his eyes were far more complex than what I had felt on my birthday. I suddenly laughed. A genuine, heartfelt laugh. After exchanging a glance with Marcus beside me, I snuggled closer into his embrace. "Julian, are you still having this wedding today? If not, we're leaving. Your Marcus ordered my wedding dress, and I need to try it on for size. The wedding is in a few days, so we need to prepare thoroughly, don't you think? Or, would you like to help out?" I saw despair in Julian's eyes, exactly like 3 years ago when he was diagnosed with late-stage liver cancer and sought refuge in my arms. It was that helpless despair, as if he was about to drown the next second with no one to save him. I hadn't slept a wink last night, this scene replaying in my mind over and over. I worried I might feel pity for him, worried I might lose my composure. To my surprise, aside from an initial dull ache in my heart, all that remained was satisfaction. It turned out the perpetually composed Julian was nothing special after all. "Scarlett, what kind of joke are you playing?" Julian's voice was tinged with a sob. He tried to step forward and pull me, but his hand froze midair. Marcus was beside me, he didn't dare. I smirked, my laugh unbridled. "Julian, this isn't something to joke about." I stood on my tiptoes and kissed Marcus on the corner of his mouth, then looked back at Julian with a smile. "Remember, you need to call me Aunt. You can't call me Scarlett anymore, you know your uncle's temper." Although our voices weren't loud, the strange atmosphere quickly drew a large crowd. Julian and I had been entangled for 8 years, no one present was unaware of our relationship. Now, he stood opposite me in a tuxedo, while I wore formal evening wear, arm in arm with his uncle, sporting a relative's corsage. The onlookers were stunned. Whispers began to filter into my ears. That girl is clever. Instead of being miserable with that young punk, she's with Marcus. He's the head of the family, mature, and more importantly, I think he's more of a man and more handsome than Julian. I agree. At least Marcus has never been rumored to be with other women. He seems calm and composed, unlike that young punk who's constantly photographed entering and leaving hotels with different women. But their relationship will be awkward from now on, living on the same estate, constantly seeing each other. His former fiancé becoming his aunt, how will they ever manage that? In the midst of the dead silence, the wedding host rushed towards us. He froze when he saw the scene before him. He stood silent for 2 full minutes before cautiously stepping forward. Julian, no. Mr. Julian, the appointed time is almost here. What about today's wedding? Are you still going through with it? These words made everyone's gaze fall on Julian. I watched him with interest, suddenly thinking of the 143 women he had been intimate with in bed. Which one would come to his rescue? As those young, beautiful faces flashed before my eyes, Julian, his eyes bloodshot, gritted his teeth and said sharply, yes. Then, the bride. Julian, trembling all over, replied to the host. She's dead. After fiercely spitting out those 2 words, Julian stormed onto the stage. 3 hours later, Julian made capital cities headlines again, because he held a wedding with only a groom. He said the bride was dead, but media photos clearly showed his bride, me, arm in arm with his uncle, laughing intimately as we got into Marcus's Maybach, which had an all-8 license plate, and entered the estate. This time, in the news headlines, Julian was no longer the dashing, womanizing playboy women eagerly chased. He had become, entirely and utterly, a joke. On the way back, Julian's words, she's dead, kept replaying in my mind. My heart suddenly felt as though it was being pricked by needles, a sharp, tearing pain. It wasn't Julian I was hurting for, but myself. 8 years. I knew Julian better than I knew myself. The reason Julian could utter those 2 words so definitively was because he had truly come to terms with the fact that he had lost me. Yet, in that moment, his eyes held hatred, indignation, resentment, and fear, but absolutely no tenderness. He didn't love me, or perhaps he had never loved me. I cried until I laughed, and then laughed until I started to sob uncontrollably. Marcus looked at me, like a madwoman, through the rearview mirror. He hesitated several times before finally speaking. Scarlett, if I had to choose again, I would still send you that message. I, Marcus, would rather see you suffer for a while than suffer for a lifetime. The message on my birthday had been from Marcus. The message was short, just a few words, don't marry him, I'll marry you. For 3 years, Marcus had never been shy about expressing his affection for me. He sent the suburban villa every year. I had accumulated a drawer full of limited edition sports car keys. Hundreds of thousands of flowers on holidays, and letters pouring out his heart, appearing in my mailbox every now and then. His love was bright and bold, yet Julian, my fiancé, hadn't noticed a thing. But at that time I was so in love with Julian, my eyes had no room for Marcus. Marcus had sent messages like that many times over the years, but only on my birthday. As I looked at the wreckage around me and the nonchalant Julian, did the content of that message finally resonate with me? Scarlett, do you regret it? Regret replying to my message? Marcus's eyes still held an unfathomable coldness. I couldn't read his heart. But it didn't matter. Now that we were intimate partners, we had a lifetime to get to know each other. I looked up, met Marcus's gaze, wiped my tears, and smiled. Of course not. I'll never regret it in this lifetime. Marcus's eyes crinkled into a smile, and he remained silent for the rest of the journey. Not regretting it was true, but apprehension was also real. The family's strict upbringing was well known. When I was dating Julian, he could stay out all night, never returning to our home. But Stone was somewhere he had to return to every day. So, in the evening, as I sat lost in thought on the garden patio, I looked up and saw Julian's car pull in. The butler walked up to me and whispered a reminder, Mrs. Marcus, dinner is about to begin. It's chilly outside, you should go in soon. And so, 5 minutes later, Julian and I found ourselves at the family's dining table, our eyes meeting across it. Julian furiously slammed his utensils down. Finally, while serving soup with a spoon, Julian smashed through the heavy pot in the center of the table. The butler's expression changed, and she immediately rose to clean up. Then, a cold male voice suddenly came from behind. What's all the commotion? If you're not eating, get out. Marcus stood on the stairs, looking towards the dining room. The smoke from the cigarette between his fingers obscured his expression, but, who had been exceptionally volatile moments ago, suddenly fell silent. The butler looked at me, embarrassed. I smiled and nodded at her, then got up to begin clearing the table. Just as I picked up the shattered porcelain pieces in front of me, Marcus had already walked over. He placed a hand on my shoulder, his gaze fixed on Julian, who was still looking down, his voice still as cold. Julian, have you forgotten your respect for elders? If you're so keen on sitting, how about I just break your legs? Before his last word finished, Julian sprang from his chair, and silently began clearing the mess in front of him. There was no longer any anger in his movements, replaced instead by timidity and extreme caution. I then realized that the man who wouldn't even step foot in the kitchen when he was with me, could actually be so efficient and skillful when doing chores. In the 8 years I had been with Julian, I had heard rumors about Marcus. Julian's buddies had nicknamed Marcus the. Whenever they saw Marcus's car on the road, they would trail far behind, not daring to overtake. Julian himself would occasionally mention his uncle, clearly terrified of him. In financial magazines, interviews with Marcus were rare, but every single one could be called legendary. At 13, Marcus took over the family from his elders, rescuing the then impending bankruptcy in just 3 years. At 18, Marcus's failed decision plunged the family into a crisis. After that, Marcus and the family vanished from Capital City. But 5 years later, at 23, Marcus once again created a miracle in Capital City's business world. With $10.3 billion, Marcus acquired all the land parcels auctioned in Capital City that year. Some said Marcus had been involved in covert operations abroad during those years. Others claimed Marcus had knelt for an entire year near an investor's home. No one knew the specifics, but his conduct left an indelible mark on Capital City's business scene. Decisive, seasoned, ruthless, these words came to mind whenever one thought of Marcus. Yet, in these 3 years, I had never truly experienced it. Today was the first time. Julian was also a significant figure in his circle. In the past, those who wanted to network with him would form a long queue. But even such a man completely reined in his temper in front of Marcus. Scarlett, ignore him. Eat your food. Marcus's words interrupted my thoughts. That single Scarlett made me pause. Julian's movements while clearing the table also halted for a moment. Marcus, however, showed no reaction. He calmly went about serving food, as if nothing had just happened. Everyone finished the meal in dead silence. It was probably the most oppressive day I had ever experienced in my life. After dinner, I set down my utensils, intending to leave. But pressed down on my hand. He looked at Julian, who had long finished eating and was still sitting there, and spoke slowly. Julian, you're not young anymore. It's time you stood on your own 2 feet. I've transferred $300 million to your account. Go out and start your own business. Marcus's words made my jaw drop. What did this mean? Was he kicking Julian out of the family? Even more shocked than me was Julian. He sat opposite me, frozen like a stone statue. It took a full 5 minutes for Julian to recover. When he looked up at Marcus again, there were tears in his eyes. Uncle, what? What do you mean by this? Marcus picked up a handkerchief nearby and wiped his mouth. His tone was as flat as stagnant water. Exactly what you understand. Take your $300 million and get out of the family. Another word, and it'll be $30 million. Julian didn't speak, but I could clearly see his chest heaving, this time not with fear, but with rage. Marcus still acted as if he didn't see it, turning to me with a smile, and taking my hand to leave. Despite everything that had just happened, this man's hand was still so warm and calm. This was the second time I had felt this man's strength. I allowed him to lead me away like a puppet on a string. After only 2 steps, my other hand was grabbed by another pair of cold hands. Marcus, you stole my woman, and now you're kicking me out of the family? Aren't you afraid that on the day you die, I'll throw your ashes into a graveyard for the destitute? You're so shameless, so contemptible. How can you face my father and grandpa? No sooner had Julian's words left his mouth, than a crisp crack came from the arm he was holding. Marcus had kicked his arm, breaking it. A sharp bone pierced through the skin, splattering blood on Marcus's face. But he acted as if he felt nothing. Stepping forward again, he punched Julian in the face. Blood once again stained Marcus's white shirt. He picked up a handkerchief and wiped the blood from his face, then looked down at Julian, who was sprawled on the ground, curled into a ball. Julian, the fact that you're alive today, that you're still in the family today, is all thanks to your traitorous father, who knelt and begged for it. And remember, Scarlett has always been my woman. With that, Marcus waved his hand behind him. throw this trash out. Then, he put his arm around me and strode away. In study, he told me about what happened that year. 18 years ago, when he was 18, the reason the corporation ran into trouble was because Julian's father leaked Marcus's business plan to a competitor. That blow directly cost Marcus's father his life. 18-year-old Marcus held a knife to Julian's father's throat. Julian's father knelt on the ground, begging Marcus, saying that he himself would atone with his life, but asking if Julian could be allowed to live. Marcus, looking at the then-child Julian, softened. And so, he raised Julian, taught him business, and even at one point considered handing the corporation over to Julian. But was unworthy. Not only was his business acumen mediocre, but his conduct and character were also severely lacking integrity. Towards the end, Marcus, a hint of worry in his eyes, pulled me closer into his embrace. You should stay at the family estate these days. I'm worried Julian might do something extreme. Seeing the flicker of concern in Marcus's eyes, I nodded in agreement. But that same night, while Marcus was at the company handling affairs, I packed my things and left. Blood ties are not so easily severed. It had to be something drastic. For the sake of that deep-seated hatred, I was willing to gamble. Even if I lost, I wouldn't regret it. As it turned out, I knew Julian well enough, because in the alleyway I always took home, I spotted Julian's car, its lights off, from a distance. I pretended not to notice, humming a song as I walked past. Just as I took out my key to open the door, several men suddenly rushed up from behind, and a club slammed into my head. When I woke up again, I was tightly bound, and looking up, I saw Julian's maliciously grinning face. His arm was still bandaged, his other hand dragging the iron club as he slowly walked towards me. Scarlett, I truly underestimated you. When did you climb into my uncle's bed? Tell me, when? Julian raised his arm, and the iron club smashed into my head. Dizziness instantly overwhelmed me, and sticky, warm blood flowed from my forehead to the corner of my mouth. I watched Julian cackle maniacally. When? Every night you were enjoying yourself with those other women in hotels. I was intimately involved with your uncle. Count how many nights you didn't come home in these 8 years. That's how many times I was intimate with your uncle. Julian, he's richer than you, more devoted, has a better body, and more importantly, he's not like you, who's terrible in bed but constantly demands I praise you. He's incredibly good. Julian trembled with rage. He raised his hand high, and once again, swung towards my head. My vision went black, and I bit down hard on my lower lip, trying to regain consciousness quickly. Bitch! I should have killed you back then. Come on, Julian. It's not too late. Kill me. Hurry. If you go easy, you're not a man. Do you see that arm-length knife behind you? Pick it up, plunge it right here into my heart, just once, and you'll feel better. Come on. Julian, who had just been in a furious rage, suddenly became afraid. He turned, looking at the arm-length knife, trembling all over. I cackled again. Julian, you're such a coward. Scared? If you don't kill me today, the moment I get out of here, I'll have Marcus kill you. Perhaps those words provoked Julian. Trembling, he turned, picked up the knife, and staggered towards me, plunging the knife into my body. A chilling sensation was followed by excruciating pain. I watched my body leak like a massive hole, warm, crimson blood gushing out. My consciousness slowly blurred. I felt like I was dying, but in the second before death, in a hazy glow, I saw Marcus's face. I knew, in this game, I had won. The pungent smell of disinfectant told me I was in a hospital. Feeling my hand being tightly held, I slightly moved my stiff body. Suddenly, a muffled groan escaped from someone beside me. The next second, I was enveloped in a tight, warm embrace. The man's voice, usually as still as a deep pool, finally wavered. You've been asleep for 3 days and 3 nights. You scared me. 3 days later, I was discharged from the hospital, even though my injuries hadn't fully healed, because a major crisis had hit the family. Julian had been in a car accident, and after a day and a night of desperate efforts, doctors couldn't save him. I was discharged so I could attend Julian's funeral. I sat in the front row of the funeral, dressed in a black wool coat, staring at the man I had loved for 8 years, now reduced to a black and white photograph. Suddenly, I curled the corners of my lips into a smile. According to the Stone family's ancestral rules, younger generations who die violently are not permitted burial in the family cemetery plot. So after the funeral, Marcus gave some casual instructions to his subordinates, then led me away. On the way back, I looked at the man, his face as calm as still water, and slowly spoke. Marcus, you killed your own blood relative for me. Are you truly content with that? A worthless life in exchange for your genuine heart? Of course, I am content. I understood. He knew everything. Someone with Julian's personality would never dare to take a knife to me. The only reason that situation occurred was because I had been relentlessly provoking him. He had known from the very beginning that I hated Julian and wanted him dead. He didn't try to dissuade me, nor did he stop me. He reminded me of my father. When I was 13, I told him I wanted to go to the city to work and earn money to help support the family. He didn't stop me, but he followed me the entire way. He fended off dogs that tried to bite me and chased away thieves who tried to snatch my wallet. When we arrived home, I turned to him and smiled. He gently stroked my head and said, "Scarlett, true love is often silent. It's about keeping you safe, ensuring your peace. Dad truly hopes that someday you'll find a man who loves you as much as I do." Dad, I found him. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories. See you next time.